just below the event. Okay.
Okay.
All right. If you want to let people in, we can get started.
We can. So we're going to start then. Let's see, 8 people. Let's see and admit all. All right. Okay. So everyone's going to be joining now. Welcome, everyone. Hello, hello.
Hello, everyone. And you have to pay attention to the new ones, like more people gonna request to join, I guess. Hey, everyone, hello. Hey, everyone, I see one there. Hello. Yeah, if you guys feel free to unmute yourself if you want, say hello to each other and turn on your camera if you want to, but don't feel you have to if it's not convenient. I think Jeanette, hey, Andrew. And use the chat, okay? Comment, post something in the chat, introduce yourself. Let us know where you're calling from. Say hello to everyone. All right, hi, Andrew. I can see Andrew there. Hello.
Yep, hello.
Great. How you guys doing? Yeah, Ryan, listening while I make dinner. Yes, actually it's my lunchtime right now. My mom is cooking right now, but it's good. Yeah, welcome everyone to this webinar. I think we're so glad to have Gabriella with us today. So the way we met Gabriella, very interesting. So Gabriella was part of the Teach Entrepreneur Network group. Sorry about the background noise, background music made by my daughter. Excuse her for that. But anyways, Gabriella made a post in the Teach Entrepreneur group. I was like, this is so interesting. Never heard about something like this. And I reached out to Gabriella and kind of talk about it. And I give a presentation about the business coaching to language coaches to her audience last month, and it got really good feedback. Now we invited Gabriella to share a little bit what she does and what she's good at with our audience in the Teach Entrepreneur group and the inner circle. I hope you guys can learn a lot from Gabriella today as well. So what we're gonna do, I'm gonna quickly introduce Gabriella to you guys, like very quickly, and then I will pass it to Gabriella. And please mute yourself if you are not ready to talk. Just keep the events as quiet as possible, and feel free to chat in the chat box. Let us know if you have questions. Feel free to do that as well. Okay, Gabriella, very quickly, I will just read what she said to me. So Gabriella is Australian-born, internationally certified professional coach, PCC in short, with the International Coaching Federation, language coach, a business communication trainer, language teacher, teacher trainer, international speaker. Our mission is to build a holistic coaching approach into mainstream language teaching, which is awesome, right? No, I know nothing about this, and I'm looking forward to learning more from her as well. Let me repeat her mission. Her mission is to build a holistic coaching approach into mainstream language teaching and the training processes. Her book, Comprehensive Language Coaching Handbook, is published and is ready now in May 2022. Okay, she co-founded ILCA, the International Language Coaching Association for language professionals and the practitioners globally. She supports her corporate clients and language teachers alike with a blend of training and coaching frameworks. So with further ado, I'm gonna just pass it to Gabriella and let her introduce her a little bit and start the presentation. Hi, Gabriella. Hello.
Okay, hello. Thank you very much for the warm welcome. Thank you everyone for attending. And James, thank you very much again for inviting me. It's a pleasure, it's an honor. I love talking about my passion, which is language coaching. So I hope everyone gets passionate about it also. I'm also checking here any late joiners, but I will slowly turn off the the panel for that. James, I hope you can see it, and because you've been made co-host,
yeah,
if you can.
Sure, I will monitor that.
All right, okay. So I guess it's this initial question which caught your eye. So why you would want to, or why you should apply language coaching skills in a digital age, where we see that there's so much going on for everyone. There's so much digital fluff in everyone's lives. What we're going to do is look at what a coaching mindset can provide for your learners, for you as language professionals, And we're going to move on into looking a little bit at that perspective of how you can manage your own business better by engaging with coaching, language coaching preferably, and what you can add to your clients' experience, the takeaways that they will have through the work, the collaboration that you have together. Okay, so I'm going to jump into it immediately. I'll try to be as brief as possible, and I won't give you too much, extra information about stuff, but I will be obviously talking at length about the theme of today. So the first thing that we're going to look into is what coaching credibility is. What does that mean? Okay, why coaching? Okay, so we're going to address that first of all. Now, what you can start thinking about is what coaching is. Are you familiar with it? Have you heard about it? What is it that you know about coaching as such? Obviously, because you're in this group, James and the coaching that he does will be familiar to you. What I am addressing here is looking at it as a profession, which has quite a lot of theory, skills, techniques, and various practices in it. And what I would like to advocate, and the way that I approach coaching, is you want to be looking at it as something which adds to your teaching, gives something extra, an extra dimension, if you will, to the work that you are already doing with your clients, your learners. Okay, in coaching we say clients, in teaching training we say learners or attendees. And what it does, it's going to add extra depth and richness to what you're already doing. And of course, it's quite lucrative, whether we like it or not. Another thing which is important is that it's one of the fastest growing industries in the world. And the data that we have is that you're going to be bombarded with people who call themselves language coaches. Maybe you yourself also call yourself a language coach. And it's very good to be aware of the different trends and what is going on in the world of coaching. So I'm going to move on and just say a few words about this. If you know what sort of trends you have in the coaching industry, and the question is what kind of trends you're familiar with, whether you are associated with some sort of large global organizations and you're getting your information, your feeds through those organizations, or you're acquainted with a number of coaches in your network and you're getting your information from them, then you're going to maybe get two different sets of information about what coaching is about, what it's trying to reach through the work that they're doing. It's always good to have a number of different threads so that you can see what you might be using in your communication of the work that you do if you associate yourself as a language coach. So having this kind of big picture approach to what you're doing helps you to position yourself better. Because if you're using the language, if you're communicating in a way which is in sync with the trends that you're reading about, then your clients are going to associate you with that trend and they're going to be more open to the things that you're doing. Now, what are some of the recent changes? What are some of the new trends that have been recognized by large organizations? I think this is going to come as something a little bit interesting. We'll see what we make of it, okay? And bring in your questions, bring in your comments. I didn't do my housekeeping at the beginning. If you've got any questions, make note of it. We'll address it at the end, okay? But do throw it into the chat box so that we don't forget it. So I really like this quote. So there's been a huge loyalty disruption, and it continues. We're talking about brands and things. Consumers are choosing brands and retailers for different reasons than before the pandemic, let's say. And they're also very likely to stick with the new brands and retailers that they're trying. So what's happening is there's huge, big disruption. People, consumers, language learners, who have been very consistent in the way that they've been approaching brands, the way that they've been purchasing services, let's say, are moving away from what they've been doing simply because the whole world has been disrupted in the past 2 or 3 years. So that's one thing to keep in mind, that there's this huge, big trend of change concerning the brands, concerning the services that consumers, your potential clients, learners, are using. What we have here is somebody reflecting on what a customer says. Okay, so I'll just read it out very briefly. So thinking about the companies somebody is buying from and how they think about people. Do they put people before profits? We're talking about services. Do they make things that the customer, needs versus just wants? If she just wants something, why does she want it? So there's a level of reflection that consumers had that we saw intensify at the beginning of COVID-19, and we can talk about how it's developed over time. So that's an interesting thought. Your clients, your potential clients, the consumers that are out there, are becoming more reflective. They start thinking about what is behind their needs, what's behind their wants. And that is a step towards being a reflective consumer, okay? So it means that you start thinking about, do I really need it? Is it something that I actually do need, or I just want it because it's there, it's cheaper, it's on sale, etc. So we're making a lot more, sorry, I'm just letting people in here. There's a lot more thought behind a purchase going on, and we have to make use of that as service providers. So we have to be catering for that kind of metacognitive thinking. So what has happened, and these are not my words, is that consumers have grown up. They've become much more conscious in the way that they are purchasing services, language services, whatever other products they might be buying. Okay, and this is from McKinsey. Moving on now. So does that mean that as service providers, we should be providing anything, anytime to anyone? Is that the main thing? Is that how we're going to be able to make that huge, big profit? Is that really what we want? Think about it. You as a service provider, is this what you want? Is this how you're going to be able to reach your full potential as a professional? Okay, I'm looking, some of you have your cameras on, I'm just looking at reactions. I'm not saying too much, but is this what you want? Just a nod or shake your head. What is it that's going on for you? Is this what you want? You want to be catering for all the language learners in the world, potentially. No, I can see someone just shaking their head. No, that's not really how you want to do it, okay? What happens is that you specialize, and obviously James is the king of this, but what we want to be looking at, I've got 2 people in the waiting room and I can't get them. Okay, yeah. So the question is, what happens when you specialize, right? So we're going to move on a little bit, hopefully, if my clicker works. Hello, okay. So we've got this pyramid here. It looks really nice, doesn't it? Question is, what's going on here? First thing is, you're going to see it's like a pyramid, you know, instead of hierarchies. We've got general teaching there, okay? The next one is when you specialize your teaching into a niche, like you cater for things that James usually talks about, you know, so you start specializing and you start focusing on certain groups of learners that you cater for. What else can you do if you move higher up? You can specialize within training and you can add coaching to it, or you can work in a niche area of business language teaching, okay, training. So already you've moved up 2 notches on this imaginary scale, let's say. And finally, what you can do is be even more specialized within business language teaching, training, because you're specializing and moving into specifically communication or culture, cross-cultural, intercultural aspects. And you can add the training into that so that it's not really teaching, it's specifically training. And you're also adding the coaching element. And why is this interesting? Obviously, the pricing is going to be different, right? And my question now is, where are you now? What's going on for you here? Where do you see yourself? So if we see this as an imaginary scale, we've got 4 different colors. We've got this, I know, let's say it's orange. Okay, I know it's not orange, but orange, gray, blue, and pink. Okay. Where would you put yourself? Can you just throw it into the chat box so we see? Where are you? What color are you at the moment? Okay, if we can see that in the chat box, and I'll try to see. We've got the pink. Oh, very nice. Okay, pink. What? Any blue? General teaching. Okay, blue. We've got some blues here. Pink. Very nice. Okay. Gray. Okay, we've got someone saying general, trying to move to specialized. Okay, pink. Okay, thank you, James, for saying that. All right, okay, pink. Okay, so if it's okay for you, if you don't want to work with the colors, you can just put in the category that you have here. Okay, Philip, so which one would you be? Okay, so we've got quite a new, okay, general business. All right, okay. So this to me shows that most of you, or anyone, anyway, those of you who have responded, thank you very much, have moved from general teaching and into the other areas that we can see here, which also means that it's more lucrative. It's something which your clients are going to be very grateful for. Now, why do you think that your clients are grateful? Once again, I'm going to ask you to throw in your answer in the chat box. Why is this better? Why is this more beneficial for your clients, that you've moved away from the general teaching into a more specialized, more focused area? What's the benefit for your learners? Can you just throw that in the chat box? Let's just have a look here. It's customized to their needs. Programs are tailored. Thank you. You give them a tool to use. Very good. Okay. Anything else? So if you, they can apply it in their job and further careers. Good. Okay. Yeah, the learning is going to be more effective. Okay. So I'm seeing that it's practical, it's customized, it's more effective, you get better results delivered true, and you solve their specific problems. Very good. Okay, so it's all focused around the learner, right? So that's what we're looking at. Now I'm going to move on, and it's a concept that I've been working on for a while, and it kind of evolved through years and years and years of working with clients. And it's something that I call value-added teaching. It's not a huge, big thing, but it's interesting to share. Okay. Now, what is this value-added teaching? we're looking first of all at the quantity of lessons that we have, okay? And what we see is that teachers who are more at the general teaching level, so at the bottom of that pyramid, right, they're spending many, many hours to achieve the goals, the financial goals, obviously, that they have every week, every month, every year. So they're putting in many, many, many hours into achieving their goals. They're not too happy with it, but that's the only way that they can make ends meet to move forward, okay? And what happens with the quality then? Of course, if you're doing 30, 40 plus hours a week, I did it. 25 years ago, I was doing my 40 hours a week. I enjoyed it, but I was also very, very disappointed in what life had thrown me, you know, and it gets to you after a while. You get into burnout, you get, probably many of you have been there, done that, and you moved away from it, which is a great thing. So what we see is that, unfortunately, if the quantity is very high, you're stacking up loads and loads of lessons. Even if they're all exactly the same, it's still very tiring. So what happens is the quality goes down. And that's not what you want. You want high quality, low quantity, right? So you're looking for exactly the opposite. So what's going on here? Actually, what is really important is that we're not actually focusing on quality. It's not quality that we want to be looking at. Obviously, it's important. What is really important is the value that you're providing your clients. And it's all those things that you listed in the chat box a few minutes ago. And how can you create true value for your clients? Any tips? Just throw it in the chat box again before I move on. I'm just curious to find out, feel out the ideas here in the audience. So what is it that's going to be providing? Trust. I like that one. Thank you. Okay. Trust is a big one. So if you don't have trust, then you don't have too much, that's for sure. Anything else? Focus on their needs. Okay. Have to have a plan or provide a plan. Okay. Commitment. Plan for success. I think that's it. Yeah. Credibility. Okay. These are all absolutely true and really good. Whoa. Can you please mute yourself? Sorry, I don't know who that is. Okay. So we've got all these ideas for how to create value, and they're all true. So don't get me wrong. These are absolutely fine. One thing that we want to be looking at is time. If we're saving time, time is the commodity which everyone tries to focus on. What's the first excuse that you get from a client when they haven't done their homework or their home assignment, or, oh, I didn't have time because of this and that. And time is always a priority issue, isn't it? So what we're looking at is we're adding value to our teaching by providing less time with the clients. How does that work? What you're doing is you're creating programs, you're creating a product, a service, which says we can do more in less. So we're following this, probably you're familiar with this expression of less is more. And it's particularly important for the clients that you are aiming to reach. If you move into corporate sector, these guys, these ladies, they don't have time. That's the one thing that I can only meet you once a week. Oh, wonderful. Okay, because my program is designed for people like you who are busy, who are looking for something which can really boost them and support them in a shorter period of time, per week, per month, whatever. So your communication is going to be around all the busyness, the lack of time, lack of energy, you're going to be focusing on what they lack. So your communication is going to be not that I can give you so much, all this, because it's going to create pushback, actually. So if you say, I'm going to give you 5 hours a week and this and all these handouts and all these products, they can't do anything with it. It's too much. It's overwhelming, and you're going to get the opposite reaction. So start to think about the value that you're providing in the relatively limited time and space that you have, and build and design your programs around that communication. Another thing that is worth thinking about for you as a professional, obviously, is how you can be thinking long term. So what we have is something that I did a couple of years ago when I was moving from one niche to another. And that's to create a pie chart and start working on those pie slices. And what I'd like you to think about is whether you want to focus on low-hanging fruit, so the easy grabs, the easy clients that you can get, or do you have a strategy and you want to work on goals longer term, okay? So what you want to keep in mind is when you have more time and energy and commitment, what is it that you need to let go of to create that time and energy? Okay, so at the moment, probably you're working 90% of your working hours, or 100%, 120, everyone's got a different ratio. What is it that you can let go of? What is it that you need to or should let go of to enable you a little bit more freedom? Like at the moment, I'm working about, I don't know, 10 hours a week. I'm not working too much more. That's my contact hours with clients. Obviously, I've got quite a lot of other programs that I'm working on, 10 hours a week. So what is it that you need to let go to enable you to be able to start working on those programs that are going to enable you to have a sustainable and enjoyable work? Have a look at what kind of ratio you're comfortable with. What is it that's going to help you perform better financially and professionally, but not pushing you, over the edge? And of course, one answer to that is coaching. That's the one thing that is definitely going to push you into that zone. Of course, and as a coach trainer, I can say it's not enough to call it coaching. It actually has to be coaching, because you're going to get your feet wet very soon. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to share my pie charts, if you allow me, okay? So what you're going to see first is my before chart, and I've got the letter U there for some reason, I have no idea. So what we have is, before I was doing quite a lot of different activities. And this will be probably quite familiar, except for maybe the teacher training. Most of these are going to be quite familiar for you. Okay, so doing a little bit of face-to-face, a little bit of online, a little bit of corporate, a little bit of group, individual, so various scenarios that you're catering for. Now, what happened for me after my transition, I decided to move only into corporate, but not let go of the teacher training. And what happens is they feed into each other. So the products and the activities that I'm doing in one, I can use in all three. And that's a pretty good mix. It's saving me a lot of time. So you can niche into 3 specific areas, and you can use the different materials, the different ideas that you have, the activities that you create in all 3 of the different ones. Okay, so that's something that you definitely need to be focusing on, need to be looking at how you can save time and energy for yourself by repackaging, repositioning. Please mute yourself, Attila, hello. And try to look at what it is that you can make the best use of, okay, if possible, okay? Oops, sorry, okay. Okay, so what we're looking at here is spreading canvas in a positive way. Okay, this doesn't mean that you're, I don't know, trying to save on things. It means that you're optimizing your own energies, your own time, and you're also making things much more efficient for your clients because they're receiving things which have been filtered through in different forms. And you can always modify, change the products, the services that you are offering, and cater for those specific needs. You can tailor them. So that's absolutely fine to be working with. So this is my personal story of how I started to rearrange my niching. Now, what we can also, excuse me, focus on is look at how you can start thinking about all this for yourself, how you can perhaps put together a to-do list for yourself or an action plan. And so I brought here for you today a tool which you can start working with a little bit to think through what is the format that I'm using for my teaching or training, coaching that I'm, for my services. What's the framework that ideally could work best? With each of these, you're going to be looking at what you have now, what you actually intend to reach, so what your ideal scenario would be, and then try to look at that bridge to cross. What is it that you need to be able to achieve that? So we're working with format, your specific goals. These can be content goals or any other time-wise, financial, whatever. What support, what motivation do you have now to make that change? What is it that you ideally would need? Once again, how can you reach that? Moving on, what resources do you have? Now, resource does not necessarily mean finance. It may be an additional room. It may mean 2 hours a week to just go and do your creative stuff. Focus on your career. So have that time slot. As we know, time is a commodity. And we have to restrain ourselves sometimes to not say, yeah, I'll take on 2 more students. Don't take on two more students, sorry. Have that time for planning, for strategic thinking for yourself. In the long run, you're going to be rewarded, definitely. What strategies, whoops, I certainly didn't go forward, sorry. What applicable strategies do you have at the moment in place for you to be building your business? In the future, what applicable strategies would you like to have? If you can't think of that, then your work will be there to find the resources to be able to have applicable strategies that you want to focus on in the future. And finally, what skills and competencies do you have at the moment that you can make the most of? And in the future, what is it that you feel that you need to be branching into, you need to be focusing on and working on? If we ourselves are not role models of lifelong learning towards our learners, then how can we expect them to be lifelong learners? Okay, so there's always a mirror effect there. An interesting thing with this tool is that you can actually use it with your learners. So you can use it as a coaching tool and talk it through with them. Be sure not to give advice, but to genuinely be interested and ask the questions that I've gone through here. And you're going to have a very, very fruitful conversation. Okay, moving on then. One more thing that I'd like us to think through is to look at learning from a holistic learner-led approach, so that we're looking at how you can be sharing, being transparent and caring in a way about your clients, your learners, all through the coaching process from start to finish. Something that we might overlook, but it will really make your language services stand out. So it's not just focused on your hourly rate, the content you're providing, and what outcome your client will have, but adding so much more finesse and genuine interest in what your learner will experience when they take part in the services that you provide, in the work that you do together. Okay, so I'll just throw these up here. I don't want to spend too much time with them, but creating value, following the learner's value system is important. Looking at what kind of interests they have, looking at what interests you have, because if you're doing what you really enjoy, then it suddenly doesn't become a task that seems like a burden, but it's something that you really, really want to be involved in. As I said, I'm 100% passionate about what I do, and I usually push myself to the extreme, but I don't notice it because I'm enjoying myself so much. Also, you could be looking at what kind of work and career options you have or your learner has, so that's a bi-directional thing. Looking at it from a personal, a team or department, or completely organizational level, so 3 levels there. Also looking at what kind of learning goals your learners have, what kind of learning goals you yourself have, and being sure to check that when you're focusing on your learners' goals, that their agenda is in alignment with other goals that they have, and also with the goals maybe of the stakeholders, that is the company who's paying for what you are doing with them. Okay, so the teaching, training, coaching. And I recently had a stakeholder meeting with a huge big organization. I was working with the HR manager, the department head, and the client, and the 3 of them were discussing with me how to move forward. And they were so appreciative of me taking the time to listen to what their expectations are and what their needs are. And we discussed how we could align what the client expects from the course and what I saw the need was from the organization. And they really, really, they gave me really good feedback on the spot, and said that this has been one of the best conversations they've ever had with a language service provider. Finally, someone listened to what they wanted and started thinking about how to connect the two, what they want and what the client wants, and how to start working with the two in alignment. So this is a really crucial one. If you want to get brownie points with any HR manager, this is the way to do it. Moving on, obviously financial well-being, it's part of the package, sure. But the big question is whether you want to be coaching, training, whatever you're doing, just for the reasonable financial gains. That's always a big question. I have my own rates, which I think for the services I provide are quite reasonable. Probably they're triple the amount of teaching. And I'm totally comfortable with it because I know the value that I provide is manifold compared to teaching. Having said that, I'd also like to say this is not about coaching being better than teaching. The value that my coaching provides is more valuable for the clients that I'm serving. Okay, so that we don't get misunderstood there. Also focusing on personal development. Coaching will definitely provide personal and professional development for your clients and also for yourself, because it's something which creates so much more for the qualities, the characteristics, and the behaviors that your clients display and the way that those are going to change. So moving on, what are the language coaching pillars that you can be focusing on looking at? We're going to start with rapport. The basis of coaching is to have a very open yet effective collaboration, which means that you're going to be working with lots and lots of positivity and trust, but not the fake kind of, oh, let's just smile and then the problems will kind of disappear. Obviously not that sort of thing, but looking at ways to move forward instead of reflecting on what didn't work. Okay, so just by making that huge big distinction, every moment of the work that you're doing together with your clients can make a huge big difference, very big impact. What else is important? When we're talking about awareness in coaching, we want to be focusing on reflection, which means reflecting on the work that we have done in the session, reflect on the language learning journey that your client has made, reflecting at the end of a course perhaps. So reflecting helps build awareness of how much progress they have made, what it is that is missing for them, where they need to move forward. Also looking at critical thinking, which is something which is getting more and more addressed, at least in ELT. So we're looking at people, and this ties in with the beginning. Do you remember what we were talking about regarding the customers? They're becoming more aware, they're becoming more conscious and more critical of the way that they are doing their shopping for services and products. So this is a trend which is now much more in the air, so to say, than earlier. We want to be supporting autonomous learning. We want our learners, our clients, to be more independent. We want them to be looking at how they can become just a little bit more independent of the teacher, of the instructor, whatever role you might be in. We want to be supporting that. We want to help them build strategies so that they can move forward with their goals. We want, regarding the content of the work that we're doing, we need to share responsibility on that. And we also need to be looking at how your clients can commit to their best self. And also you, how ethical you are, how much you are doing to professionally move forward so that it's not you're doing the same thing over and over again and you get stuck in a rut. And then that can lead to burnout very quickly. But how you yourself are committing to be the best possible professional that you are so that you can provide the best services for your clients. So this is also something which blends in with a coaching mindset. Now, finally, we're going to look into a comparison very briefly between teaching and coaching. Now, what does teaching have? It has a focus on being very directive. It works with teacher input in that if there's new input in the class, it's mostly coming from the teacher, right? The teacher is bringing you the books, the handouts, the websites, etc. And I'm not saying this is for the majority, but this happens quite a lot. You're also looking at an activity which is instructor-led. It's hierarchical, whether we like it or not. It's not based on partnership. And whether we like it or not, the teacher is going to be in the leading role, so to say. What we're also looking at is what the aims are in teaching, which is to provide information and knowledge to enhance comparison and certain cognitive skills based on past learnings. Excuse me, I just had a word in there. So you're going to be looking at how to enhance cognitive skills based on past learning. So you're adding to what you have previously learned. The orientation is going to be structure-based. You're going to be looking at what the framework is, and it's very strongly content-driven. You've got curriculum, you've got syllabus, you've got lesson plans, you've got all that structure, and you've also got lots of content, which is like Lego, okay? So you're building all the time. Now, what's coaching like? I'm not saying it's the opposite, but it is quite different to teaching in this respect. So the first thing is that it's non-directive and it encourages learner input. The ratio in a good coaching session is 80% learner or client input and 20% coach input. It will be learner-led and it's partnership-centric. So, and I think this is the strongest indication of whether you're working with a coaching framework or a teaching framework. What else do we have here? The aim is to create a space for discovery, awareness, and growth. So we're looking at a place to have that critical thinking, to ask questions, to ponder, to understand what's going on for the learner, so that when they come to terms with who they are as language learners, then it just gets much easier, much simpler. And this is the value that you're adding to whatever services you are providing. So you're helping your learners to create clarity around their language learning. You're helping them identify their goals, to clarify their goals, and to plan and work with strategies. And especially if you're working in the corporate world, they're going to value this so very much, much more than volume 3, page 44. Okay, so what is it that the digital age, the past 2-3 years, have changed for us? First of all, the ESL environment has changed. We're seeing that the branding of language teaching, the shift from teaching to other domains is happening. We're also seeing a lot of communication around ESL or ELT, whatever you want to call it, is beginning to shift away from more traditional approaches. We're looking at lingua franca, which is something that, if you're familiar with the phrase, it means that you're communicating with others in English. So this is an English-specific phenomenon, where English is just the bridge between those two people, but their native tongues are something other than English. So they're using English to communicate, but it's not the language that otherwise they use in their everyday communication. And the proportion of people using English as a lingua franca or business English as a lingua franca has increased rapidly. Self-study and tools, so many. If you just look at advertisements, if you look at social media, you're going to come across people sharing these, selling them, marketing them, and you're going to see a proliferation of, websites trying to grab your attention and get you to focus on these things because they're the best new shiny thing. Also, the concept of class has changed. It's being challenged by online. And what makes a class a class? Is it 3 people with the camera on, off, no communication, maybe the chat box occasionally? Is that considered a class? And what's the classroom dynamics there? Is what should a teacher now doing their training at university, should they be prepared for this sort of teaching also, or is it still the traditional classroom of 15, 20 students or 10 students, whatever, and learning how to handle that? So lots of questions there. Also, what we're noticing is, as we are here, the online presence, which has been dominating our lives for the past few years, and it's probably here to stay. Maybe not in such a high proportion as we've seen in the past 2-3 years as we move back to live. However, the Zoom fatigue, I just had a conversation with the head of an organization, and she said, can we just phone call? I'm sorry, I don't want to sound rude, but I'm really suffering from all these Zoom meetings that I've had lately. And we had a 1-hour conversation on the phone, which is fine. So this is also an aspect of the way that we are communicating, the way that we are approaching and thinking about our communicating, okay? What else is important? The learning outcomes that we have. The responsibility for the learning is now more questionable. Up to now, it's always been, well, the teacher tells me what to do, I do it, and there wasn't too much thought attached to it. You kind of went in, you knew what your job was, you knew what you had to do. And all this is being questioned now because so many other things are happening. There's a need now from the learners. And this is the interesting thing about this. This is not necessarily coming from the teachers, but it's coming from the learners, that there's a preference for, okay, well, tell me what to do. I'll go and research it and I'll check out what I can do. And then I'll come back to you with what I've got. That's an interesting thing. Another thing is this awareness of social and emotional well-being. So much literature being written about it. Conferences are full of it. And let's admit it, our mental health is a top priority. Probably everybody knows someone who has suffered mildly or more severely in the past few years, and it's not a welcome sight. So it's something that has our attention. We need to focus on it. Probably you've seen some of your students saying, look, I can't do today because there's just too much going on. I just can't focus. And, you know, so all these are just adding up for a lot of people. And I'm seeing quite a lot of that, particularly this spring. So maybe this is the time when this is a very, very, very timely thing to address. The way that we are obtaining, getting our information, and the way that we are processing data has rapidly increased. There's this need for speed, for, you know, snapping your fingers and getting everything at the touch of a button. And of course, there's a lot of cognitive overload connected to that. There's a lot of change in our daily habits. What's the first thing that you did when you woke up 10 years ago, 15 years ago? What's the first thing you do today? I bet that there's a big change there. And it's connected to mobile phones, cell phones, whatever you want to call it. Very basic things in our lives have changed because of the technology. And that is impacting the way that we are learning, for example. There's this blur, there's less distinction between education and entertainment. So we've got this edutainment sort of thing going on. Also, the way that we are networking, socializing, so how people communicate has completely changed. And also our attention span is shrinking. So we've got this fear of missing out and trying to get a bit of this, bit of that. And all this impacts on the environment of the learning that is taking place for your learners and the teaching that you are providing, training or coaching. So quite a lot of interesting things. Now, what about the different learner types? Okay, so what we're going to be looking at, so we've got commitment and we've got need. And you're going to see 4 quadrants, which I'm going to bring up. And I know we're short of time, so I'm sorry, but the recording is going on, so I think we're pretty good. We can see clients who have low commitment and actually they're quite low on needs. So it's something which, you know, the kind of person, the kind of learner is going to shrug their shoulders, sit there during the lesson and not be interested, not be involved, not going to do their home assignments, you know, all that. Then you've got the type who's strongly committed but doesn't really need it. So they're really enthusiastic, but they don't really have any particular goal. And the other one, I think this is the really dangerous type, which needs the language. They need to learn the language, but they're just not committed enough, right? And that's where coaching can actually come in quite handy. And finally, we've got the top, you know, top of the top, strongly committed and has an essential need, which they want you to be helping them work towards. Okay, so this is just an interesting way of contextualizing. And I'm sure if I gave you some homework now, what it would be, one thing is to do the pie chart for yourself. The other one would be categorize your learners. And think about who are the clients that you just love to just, okay, goodbye, thank you. Probably the ones in the bottom, right? So think about that, and also think about what it is that you could do to move them upwards towards the one with the strongly committed essential need. Okay, what is it that's missing for them? Do you think they could think about this? You could even share this with them and ask them to place themselves on it. Now, that's a very fruitful conversation also. Okay, moving on, we're going to be looking at coaching tools. Now, coaching tools help the client to be more clear, for example, in their decision-making, motivation, planning, goal setting, etc. They can be visual, they can be kinesthetic. You could be working on emotions and feelings, or you could be looking at, cognitive aspects of their learning. So quite a lot of things that you could be looking at. The good thing about them is that they're not language learning activities. Okay, they're definitely not. The difference is that a coaching tool will support the thinking around the language learning. Okay, that's a difference. So it's not going to help them learn the language as such. So it's not going to help them with, oh, I've got a good activity for present perfect, or I've got, an amazing one for learning colors for primary school learners. That's not coaching tools. Okay, you're going to see it in a minute. Okay, so this is where I'm going to be sharing a few things, so do bear with me. This is from illustrations from my upcoming book out in 2 weeks. So I'm just going to be sharing that. What you see here is language coaching wheel. And what you can see here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Sorry, I'm terrible. 7 categories. I thought it was 6, and I thought, no, it doesn't look like 6, does it? It's 7. So we've got 7 different categories that you want your learners to start thinking about regarding their language learning. So as you see, it's not focusing on learning new vocabulary, grammar, pronunciation, tone, I don't know, sentence stress, whatever. So it's not. It's about thinking about who you are, how you approach your learning. So you're going to ask questions like, how much time do you think you are spending on your learning? 20 minutes a week, 50 minutes a week, in addition to the lessons. Next question could be, how much time do you think you should be spending? What's that saying? Okay, what's that difference there? So maybe you've just got 30 minutes difference per week. What you can also do is add these up, and in 1 year, do the maths. What's that difference saying? Huge amount of time, right? How do you feel? What kind of emotions do you have regarding learning the language, using the language? Are these positive emotions? Are they negative? What needs to change? What could induce that change? How are you feeling now as you're talking about the language? Is there any kind of physical response you have if you have to present, for example, or you have to use English in a meeting, or there's an exam coming up or a test? And just once again, become more aware of what's going on for you. How much can you or should you be using your network to practice, to learn the language, to get tips and ideas from? What language skills do you feel most competent in? What are the language skills that you need improvement in? So just going around this wheel and getting information. How motivated are you? What is it that's missing? Where can you get motivation from? How confident do you feel? How much confidence do you think is missing for you to feel okay and comfortable with the work that you're doing? How would you describe success in your language learning? How successful do you think you have been so far? What's missing for you to feel successful in the work that you're doing? Okay. What you notice about these is that they're very much present and future oriented without specific goals. So we're just trying to understand what's going on for the learner. Now, the interesting thing about this is you can see these little arrows, right? And well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to, hopefully you can see this. You can see the dot. Yeah, okay, thank you. So here you imagine a 0, and here you imagine a 10. And for time, we're going to say, ask a question where the question starts with how much, okay? So if you've got 0 here, 10 here, on a scale of 0 to 10, how much time do you think you are spending with your language learning? Let's say 0 means absolutely none, 10 means all the time that I possibly can, and it's absolutely the maximum, okay? Obviously, they're going to give a number something between the two. And you move on with all of them, like how, can you please mute yourself? How I don't know who that is, but excuse me. I don't know who that is, but yeah, okay, so we've got that. Okay, so coming back here, what we're looking at is asking questions to get some kind of number, right? And something that you're going to notice, like how motivated are you? Where do you see your success, etc. And we're going to be looking at the next thing, which is you're going to create some sort of wheel, but it's actually a wonky wheel, right? So what you're seeing here is that time might be pretty high for them. So they've got spending quite a lot of time. Their feelings are not particularly positive. They're not making use of their network. Their language skills are so-so, pretty good. They're particularly motivated, but they're not too confident. And they feel that they're kind of successful, but there's room for improvement. And all this you can just read with that. And the amazing thing with this is you can immediately see where there's room for improvement. So mindset, making use of network and resources, and working on confidence will all result in an increased sense of success. And it's pretty cool. You can, of course, change these labels. So if you want to, you can just get some ideas from your learners. You can discuss it with them, okay? So moving on. Hopefully I can move on. Yeah, all right, okay, here we are. The next thing is the 5S model, which I'm going to ask you to think about what this could be based on what I've been talking about all this time. I'm going to jump into it, okay, because we're quite pressed for time. So what you can see is strategies. What strategies are in place for your learners, but also for yourself. It's a bi-directional tool. Again, it can be also effective for you. What skills do you have? Do you not have? What's missing for you? Where's the support coming from? How's the self-confidence for you? And how are you with the success? Okay, so this is just another way of looking at the coaching wheel, but focusing on particularly words starting with S just for the fun of it. Okay, moving on. The last tool that I brought today was something which I thought would be good visual. Now you can see a couple of pictures here. And what I'm going to ask you to do is think about which of these pictures would you associate yourself with as a language learner? Which of these pictures depicts in some abstract or very specific way who you are as a language learner? Okay, and I'm going to share mine. Mine is this, okay, so I'm learning German at the moment and I'm kind of feeling a little bit lost, like I'm just going round and round in circles, but also obviously making progress, but it seems a little bit, I'm at the beginning of the journey, so it's like a never-ending story at the moment. Someone might say, well, that's me. I'm looking for that one way, you know, that one direction that I could be moving towards. Or maybe I'm looking for something really energetic in my language learning. And you don't know, the good thing with pictures is that you don't know what your client is going to say. So you can just take in a bunch of pictures, or you can do it this way, displayed, or you can ask them as homework to be looking at them. to bring some in, and sharing with each other and asking them, well, what do you think? Why did Bobby choose this picture? Or can you tell me, Sylvia, I don't know if there's a Sylvia here, Sylvia, why did you choose this picture? Can you tell us? And that they can even guess each other's idea. Actually, I did this with a corporate, I think it was a group of bookkeepers, and they had these hilarious ideas. So it can be really fun. It's a great icebreaker. And it's also great because the focus suddenly isn't, so tell me about yourself. Well, I've been learning English for 3 years and well, I'm not really good. And well, I don't know, I'm here because, well, I want to improve my English. Do we learn anything about that person? No, absolutely nothing. They're very self-conscious. They hate it. It's just that. So what you want to be doing is redirecting their focus to something visual. And the good thing about pictures is that they're not specifically aimed at anything. They could be any pictures actually, but obviously maybe not something about, I don't know, a pair of shoes or something. So try to think a little bit of, you know, a bit more abstract, a bit more specific. And the idea is behind this is that your learner is because they're not focusing on themselves, they're going to open up much more. They're going to be much more willing to share something of themselves, of their personality, of the way that they approach learning, the way they think. So you're going to learn much more about their personality, their creativity, how they look at the world. And that's going to give you lots of very, very rich information for how you can be approaching the lessons that you have together. Okay, so that's all. And my question for today is, if you're not willing to make changes, tweaks to your programs, to the way that you see your own personal development journey, then when is that time going to come? So I'm going to try and tell you that now is the time, okay? Now, because time is ticking and time is the most precious commodity, as we learned. So thank you very much for being here. And I know I gave a slightly extended version. I wasn't sure what the timing would be. I'd encourage you to purchase my book. It's out now. It's actually going into print as we speak. So yeah, fantastic. And also to maybe attend the first International Language Coaching Association conference, which is coming up this July in London. So hopefully see you in person. That would be fantastic. And I'm very happy to sign my book there. ILCA, the International Language Coaching Association, has its own YouTube channel. There are a lot of interviews, webinars there, which we have recorded over the past almost 3 years. We have a members only zone, blog posts, courses, consultation, coaching. So quite a lot of things going on there, very active. And we've got some amazing new developments and plans for the second half of this year, but I can't say anything yet, so that's secret. But lots of excitement building up for the second half of this year. So I do hope that you join us on this journey. And I've made it quite clear that without coaching, we're going to be missing out a little bit on what we can actually provide, can give our clients. So thank you very much for being here. And James, please take over for the Q&A, or I don't know if there's anything that we need to be looking at. Thank you very much, everyone. And thank you.
Hey, Gabrielle, great job. Thanks for bringing us this great webinar. I think it's a really eye-opener to me. So we talk a lot of things that you mentioned in the webinar about becoming a coach and niche teaching. And I think the part I really like the most is the mindset part, teacher mindset and the coach mindset. I think I've actually, to be honest, I've been bothered, or I've been struggling with this for months, because we do have some clients. I think the reason they are not taking action, they're not making the progress we want them to be, is that they just get stuck in the teacher mindset. They don't see themselves actually charging a higher rate by doing what they do. But that's really the part I like the most, the mindset, being teacher, being a coach, between being a teacher and being a coach, and also what to actually do as a teacher and what actually do as a coach. I think definitely I want you to be on the stage with us not too long from now to kind of talk about that a little bit more. I think it's going to benefit a lot of people in our community, having this mindset shift, seeing themselves differently when they transition from a teacher to a coach, which is super important. Yeah, I don't have any questions for you. I don't know about the audience. If you guys have any questions, feel free to unmute yourself and ask, or drop in the chat. Anyone?
Okay. There was one, I think this, minimum maximum time to coach someone. Thank you for that. There isn't such a thing. Obviously, when you contract with a client at the beginning, so you don't coach without contracting. So minimum to have a verbal agreement, but 99% of the time it's the safest thing just to have a written contract. That way, you both have a reference point. There's something that both of you can point to. You committed to that. You made an agreement to follow along that path, and you're not providing, or you're not doing what you promised you would be doing. So it goes both ways.
Yeah,
the other thing, most of the time you're going to say, well, actually, having heard what your goals are, and we have a conversation called the chemistry call, and we discuss what the needs, the expectations are, etc. And we agree on a timeline for that. So, well, let's just contract for 3 occasions now and see what happens, whether we should, move on and have 10 sessions perhaps. Coaching can go parallel to teaching. So I've coached people who are in language learning groups, and I'm supporting them on the outside, okay? I can also be the person who's providing the coaching, and after we've identified the goals, we start actually working on them, but then it's not coaching anymore. Maybe it's a coaching approach, teaching or training situation. And I think that answers another question. So is it possible to actually be teaching also, or do coaches not teach? You can, but you can't call it coaching. So when you're coaching, you're not teaching. When you're teaching, you're not coaching. So you kind of get the idea.
That's great, yeah, because not everyone knows about the differences there, and I think most of our audience here are used to be a teacher, so I think that's great highlights on the differences there to help them understand when you transition into a teacher to a coach. There's a reason why you are getting people better results, getting your clients better results, and why you are able to charge much higher rates and justify the rates by doing what you do. Awesome. Yeah. So for those of you who joined late, we're definitely going to share the recording with you. Feel free to follow Gabriella, and if you're interested in the conference, and reach out to her, and we're going to definitely collaborate more in the future. I do feel like that's the gap we have right now in our business. So we got to collaborate with you more for sure. Yeah, I think that's it, right? For today. I know we run over a little bit, but it's a great session. Thank you again, Gabriella, for bringing us this brilliant, awesome presentation today.
Thank you very much for having me, and goodbye. Yeah. Okay.
Bye, everyone. Everyone. Good job, Gabriella. Yeah, I'll reach out to you. Okay. Take care. Have a good one. Bye, everyone. Bye-bye. Take care.